All right, happy Monday, sports fans. It is October 6th, and very excited to have you with me on a Monday following an incredible weekend of Tampa Bay sports. My name is Brian Rothenberger. For those of you who may be tuning in for the first time, this is a podcast dedicated, as the name does certainly suggest, to Tampa Bay sports, the Bucks, the Bolts, the Rays, the Lightning, and the University of South Florida Bulls. We record this Monday through Friday. We post in the evening, reason being, I work for the Quad City Storm, a minor league hockey team here in the Quad Cities, 4 cities on the border of the Mississippi River in Iowa and Illinois. We are, as of today, I believe 15 or 14 days from opening night, so times are crazy. Not much time to do this. Podcast is just a half hour. If you are tuning in, thank you. Would ask if there's anything you want to hear discussed. Shoot me a DM on Twitter. You can follow me at Tampa Bay × 2. That is at Tampa Bay, the letter X, the number 2. Or you can send me an email at Tampa Bay × 2 at gmail.com. And again, that is Tampa Bay, the letter X, the number 2. at gmail.com. Today is going to be a whirlwind. I want to touch on a little bit of everything that went on this weekend, and it was a lot. For the first time in a while, no Rays news to discuss. I think some more will be coming up with that as the sale progresses with this new ownership group. We expected lots of USF Bulls. We got it. We expected lots of USF Bucks, Tampa Bay Bucks. We got it. Expected some Lightning. Plenty of hockey talk last week. Did not expect to be having some of the conversations today that we are going to end up having. Preseason hockey, specifically featuring your favorite hockey team, the Tampa Bay Lightning, cranked up to 10. It is the A topic in the NHL. It was over the weekend. Connor McDavid signed today. That's big news, although his contract quite comical, and I don't mean that negatively towards him. It is putting the hockey team in Edmonton in a very precarious position. That is something that we will probably not talk about today, but hopefully have some time either for a expanded hockey podcast Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We will be perhaps not streaming live, but recording live on location from the Las Vegas Strip. Assuming all goes well here in Storm's country, that being the Quad City Storm, be taking one last quick weekend jaunt. Thursday evening, Friday, Saturday, getting back early Sunday. Which, very exciting, means the opportunity to watch the USF Bulls and the University of North Texas Mean Green in Vegas before watching the Eagles at the Sphere. The good Eagles, the singing Eagles, not the football playing Eagles. We like them much better than the football team. The plan is wife and I to go meet my dad and uncle out there. Dad's never been to Vegas, 72, loves the Eagles. Should be an absolute blast, especially if we're able to mix USF, UNT at a sports bar somewhere. I don't know where to start after this weekend, so let's just go in chronological order. It seems like it was quite a while ago, but the University of South Florida Bulls picked up a win versus the Charlotte 49ers. And for a quarter, that game went exactly how we thought it would. And Charlotte did not have an answer for USF. Got to pull up the box score here. It was 23-0 after one quarter of play, and the score represented the game. I mean, the Bulls were going up and down the field. Charlotte could not move the ball. It was lopsided. I referred to the game versus Charlotte and Rice that took place a few weeks ago when I saw it on TV. I thought it was a high school football game at first glance, and that I am not I'm not exaggerating. I really did think it was a high school football game, and it kind of was like, all right, well, here we go. The Bulls are who we thought they were. They're doing what was expected. 33-10 at halftime, but you did kind of feel like the foot was taken off the gas a little bit by USF. Turnovers popped up for the first time ever. Ends up being a 54-26 final. It's not getting any kind of tough examination from the national media, which I guess is to be expected, as their knowledge or care for USF is fairly minimal as it is. Bulls fans, myself included, immediately after that game, and the process kind of evolves throughout the weekend. Immediately after, I did not feel good about that win at all. And I recognize the place of privilege that comes from, being able to not be happy with a 54-26 win to move to 4-1 on the season. But what I think made it so frustrating was you saw the first quarter of, that's what we think we can be. That is one of the best teams in the country. And then you saw some complacency. And, I do want to say, and we'll talk a little bit about what Alex Golesh said in his press conference, while I think that USF is to blame for, in part, taking their foot off the gas pedal, Charlotte brings in a JUCO quarterback. They were starting the game with a backup who could not get a spark lit to save his life. They bring in this JUCO quarterback, and I gotta find the wide receiver's name, because this guy was a dude, and they were talking about him on the broadcast. They knew he was a dude. God, what is going on with the internet here tonight? Just crawling. Point being made here is that this guy, was it Cobb or Stokes? CJ Stokes. No, not Stokes. I want to give Charlotte credit as someone who... Sean Brown, 4 catches for 58 yards. 6'4", 200-pound kid from North Carolina. It drives me nuts. His undershirt had a hood on it. What on earth are you going to need that for, son? But made some just disgusting catches that extended drives, kept drives alive. They got some juice from that JUCO quarterback coming in. This guy was balling out. Everybody speaks super highly of the head coach for Charlotte. What it reminded me of in the third quarter, Charlotte right now is us a few years ago, where Golesh has guys that are battling, they're playing for him, they're not even close. So we've been on the wrong end of those 50-something, 20-something games where we saw some flashes. That's what that turned into to Charlotte. Now, the Bulls do, I think, have to look in the mirror. In reality, the game never really got to a place of concern, but it did get to a place of frustration. Alex Golesh, I think, detailed that pretty cleanly in his press conference. Said, look, we're glad we get the win. We're happy about this, that, the other. In as many words, and I'll try and get some audio for this whatever day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Certainly, we'll be moved on from it probably Thursday and Friday, but dive into the press conference a little bit. Basically just said that the team got arrogant. They came out, marched the ball up and down the field. They got arrogant. They got complacent. And when that happens, and then you get a little spark on the other side, you're not as engaged anymore, you get what we got. And what the hope has to be is that this was not a peek behind the curtain. To me, it was not anything that Charlotte was doing that was forcing USF to play a different game. The Bulls beat themselves. They have not done that all year. And as long as that game is just a glimpse of the Bulls doing that, it could be an opportunity for them to check themselves and say, hey, we went up against maybe the worst team in the conference. We stopped playing our game, and it got ugly. We're about to go play what a lot of people, and I like this because I like the hype, and I'm going to continue to hype this game up because I feel it personally. People saying that this is perhaps the Group of 5 game of the year. The Group of 5 game of the year, I think, isn't going to involve a football team from Memphis because they've emerged to me as really the team to care about. But you've got a 5-0 North Texas team that you're going to see that is not going to be operating in the same way that Charlotte was. You want to make those mistakes on the road against North Texas and what I expect to be a packed stadium, because this is North Texas's Super Bowl. They are pulling out every stop for this game. Free tickets, free food, free merch, canceled classes. It is, I've read an article today, a lot of people are saying it's the biggest game in their program's history. Right now, USF is a 1.5 point favorite, over under 67.5. Real quick before I get into the feelings that I have about this game, because the feelings I have about this game are unique, something I have not felt in a long time. There have been 2 University of North Texas teams so far this season. There has been North Texas at home, and there has been North Texas on the road. I will grant you, North Texas has played a very weak schedule. However, they have not lost a game. They started the season versus Lamar and beat them 51-0. You might say to yourself, well, that is Lamar. Why on earth do we care what they did against Lamar? And you would be right to say that. However, what has Lamar done since then? Again, a different team on a different playing field than we are. They have gone 4-0. They beat a South Dakota team who is down this year. They beat a Texas Southern team. They beat a Nichols team. Again, Lamar is not going to be lifting any playoff college football banner, but they are 4-0 since getting beat 51-0 in North Texas Stadium. Then North Texas went on the road and beat Western Michigan 33-30 in overtime. They came back, and if there's a game that USF fans can circle to feel a little concern, Washington State is not a world beater. I don't even know if they're a good team. They're not a joke. They beat Idaho to start the year. They beat San Diego State. They have a loss to Washington 59-24, and they beat Colorado State on the road 20-3. North Texas beat them 59-10 in Denton. That is a ass kicking. Again, home North Texas, road North Texas. After that 59-10 win versus Washington State, they go on the road to Army. They squeak one out in overtime. Second overtime win of the season. Could easily have a couple of losses, but they don't. They get the job done. They beat Army on the road. Again, not a great Army team. Come back home, beat South Alabama 36-22. This will certainly be the biggest challenge of the season. Not just that they played so far, but until a potential conference championship for North Texas, USF will be the toughest team that they play. It is very tough as well to look to statistics for this game for a couple of reasons, and it's primarily strength of schedule thus far. UNT has put up some great numbers. They're more of an aerial attack, and they have done what they have done versus some very bad teams. USF has done what they have done versus some very good teams. So statistically, in just about every category, North Texas is in a better spot, except for one that I think could very well end up being one of 2 statistical categories that determine this game, and that is rush defense. North Texas has struggled to stop the run. And while USF will be missing, I would certainly assume Pertavious Norton, who we are certainly wishing the best, had a very scary moment with him in the game Friday versus Charlotte, had to be carted off the field. It was great to see him giving a thumbs up as he walked off. Certainly hoping the best for that young man. Would love to have him coming into this game versus North Texas. We have got plenty of guys in the backfield, including our quarterback, who is coming off a single-game record. It should be ground and pound versus North Texas. If the Bulls are able to continue the problems North Texas has had stopping the run, and the Bulls protect the football, I think that will be enough for them to win this game. I don't have a lot of concern about the run game, especially with our coaching staff. I think they're going to be able to design ways for our guys to be very successful. Cannot have the sloppiness we had last week. I'm already halfway through, and there's a lot more I wanted to get to today. I think I could do 30 minutes right now on the Lightning Panthers deal. We have an NFL team that just won a huge game we got to talk about too. So I'm going to finish this USF thought with this. I have not had the feeling that I had really last night into this morning about a football game in a long time. The last time I had a feeling like this about a football game was the day after Thanksgiving when USF was headed to Oviedo to take on an undefeated UCF Knights team. By my calculation, that is the last game USF played in that could sniff this game in meaning. Huge games this year. Boise State, huge game, huge win. Florida at the Swamp. Ask Steve Sarkisian how valuable that is. He just said pretty much no team in the country could go into the Swamp and win. We did. Huge. And I think that win versus Florida has gotten devalued in the last 3 to 4 weeks. I think it will retain its value, especially long term. But even as the season goes on, I think the Gators are going to be able to prove that they are, if not a very good team, a real SEC team, which could bode well for USF if they are able to win their conference. Those games were all house money. Miami was house money. Pretty much, going on the road to Alabama at home. You're not going in expecting to win. You're not going in needing to win. You're going in wanting to win, and by God, they did it twice this year. This is a game, if you are the program you say you are, you need to win. We have a more talented roster than the University of North Texas, and that is no disrespect to North Texas. I think we are 1A, 1B with Memphis for the most talented rosters, probably with Tulane right behind us in the conference right now. Talent of roster does not always dictate wins. Ask the University of North Carolina how that's working. They've got some guys on there. I don't think they should be a great ACC team. They shouldn't be as bad as they are. USF begins a march not just to the American Athletic Conference Championship, but to a college football playoff spot this week. And it is going to be an absolute blast. It is going to be a new experience for guys on this team. Guys that have been with this program for 3-4 years that have approached every game they've been in up until now with the attitude I was just talking about. Now it's different because they're doing this for real. I'm talking about it. But you think about it. They go into every game. I have no doubt they've given their all every game, but they've gone in loose. Going into the Swamp, you had just beat Boise State 34-7, I think the score was. You're going into the Swamp with a chance to go 2-0. I'm sure you got family and friends there that think this is the highlight of your college football career. You're playing in the Swamp. You beat them. Son of a gun. We're 2-0. Go to Miami, things don't work out. Pick up 2 wins that you knew you were going to get. This is, again, going back to UCF. I think when we lost to Houston, I think it was the Charlie Strong year, just crumbled the season. This is a conference game that matters and a conference that we think we are above. It's time to prove it. And my gut says we're going to win. My brain says we should absolutely win. My brain is a lot more confident than my gut. But I do think that we are going to go in. I also think sneaky. A bye week. North Texas is coming off a bye week. That's nice. That's good for them. Something to be said about back-to-back Friday nights. That routine's funky. It obviously did not create any problems for USF Friday night, a team that had gotten off to a slow start to start the season, puts up 23 points in the first quarter. Now, the one thing that will not be short in Denton is juice. because that campus is going to be hyped for it. I mean, I certainly expect. And the Bulls are going to have to be able to play with that. But look, they won in the Swamp. You can win in the Swamp. You can win in Denton, Texas. Play your game. Bulls win. We don't look ahead here. That's a joke. We do look ahead here. Florida Atlantic at home for homecoming. You don't get the rest. You got Memphis right after it. Florida Atlantic not having a great year. We will be their Super Bowl. They are a weird little team over there on the East Coast. They've got some strange fans that love to talk on Twitter. They have won 2 games so far this year. A nail biter with Rice. They beat Fan pretty good. Lost the Shula Bowl to FIU. Got stomped by Memphis, even though they gave them a pretty good first half. And got beat by Maryland. They've got UAB this weekend. And then come to Tampa, go to Navy. Boy, tough conference slate for them. Get Tulsa at home, then go on the road to Tulane. We are the game they're going to be circling in their schedule. How do they make their season? They beat us. Again, different position. We are the hunted right now. And it's a great place to be, but it's a new place to be for a lot of the guys on this roster. All right, 20 minutes. I'm going to make myself stop talking about USF. More to come on that tomorrow. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, man. This team rocks. This team really rocks. That was A, great game. B, a gutsy win. Seattle brought their A game. We were going into that with a B-, C+ roster based off our injuries. Going across the country to notoriously, partially because of location, but partially just because it's a hostile environment, one of the toughest football stadiums to play in the country. And you hope that, well, maybe they don't have their A game, the Seahawks offense. Sam Darnold was slinging it. Defense held up all right in the first half, but then it turned into a shootout, and we were better. Baker was nails. Well, I forget the stat I saw today, was it one of the first quarterbacks to throw or 3 or 4 touchdowns and less than 5 incompletions, something insane. Egbuka continues to be unbelievable. Rashad White was very serviceable. Just solid. Didn't make mistakes. Punched it in the end zone when we needed to punch it in. And even though the defense was kind of frustrating as Seattle's offense really got rolling, that score at the end of the first half drove me nuts. Huge play at the end. Pass rush finally getting home, which if I have one thing to complain about out of that game, man, we've got to figure out a way to get some pass rush. I know a lot of people are complaining about coverage, and there are some guys that are not doing a great job of it, but Sam Darnold was baking a cake back there. Man, he had all the time in the world, and I think that's just any great Buck team that we have ever had. They find a way to get pass rush, finally get some home, and Todd Bowles even said there was a blitz they'd been sitting on the whole game. They dialed it up. It got through. Darnold under pressure. Might have been hit as he threw. I can't remember, but it hit the helmet of Logan Hall. And Lavonte David, who got ripped by Vita Vea earlier in the year, lovingly, of course, makes the pick. And Chase McLaughlin, 2 low-key MVPs. One has been, no, I can't even say that because Grammatica won the Florida game for us. The kickers in Tampa have been a huge part of the success of both teams. You think of how tight these games have been for the Bucs. McLaughlin has made some huge kicks. Even the loss versus Philly was the reason that we really still had a chance to come back in that game. And then Grammatica has been rock solid. Of course, the big kick versus Florida for the win. But, those things, especially in the NFL right now, that is looking like there might not be a ton of juggernauts. There might just be a bunch of pretty darn good teams as the Broncos beat the Eagles in Philly. The Bills get beat by the Patriots in Buffalo. This might be the year where the little things really matter, one of which staying healthy, which we certainly need to do a better job of. But kicking can go a long way, and we've already had Chase McLaughlin set a record with the longest outdoor kick in NFL history. I don't recall that exactly, but kickers are people too. Stat line for Baker, my stat was off. I had to figure out what that was, see if I saved that. 29 to 33 for 379 yards, 2 touchdowns. Only got sacked once with a quarterback rating of 134.7. Pretty darn good. Not a ton of yards for Rachaad White. Again, 41 yards on 14 carries, but did get 2 touchdowns. How about the day for Egbuka? 163 yards receiving at a 57-yard touchdown catch. Targeted 7 times, caught the ball 7 times. Cade Otton, huge catch on the final drive. 4 for 81 yards. I think that last one was his long at 27. And, Rachaad White out of the backfield, too. 4 catches for 30 yards. Again, having 2 backs like Bucky and Rachaad is great, but each guy being able to really step up when needed is a huge advantage as well. Want to quickly... God, I'm getting old. I got to figure out... I bookmarked some tweets, and, back in the day, I used to have a pretty good lay of the land on this X app, and now I can't figure out. That's embarrassing. Where my bookmarked tweets are. Good night. I'll have that figured out by tomorrow. I'm going to struggle to fill this in with 4 minutes. Tampa Bay Lightning fans who have tuned in. 2 preseason games between the Lightning and the Florida Panthers have gotten a tremendous amount of recognition from the national and local media and hockey media for the insane amount of penalty minutes and fights and suspensions that have come out of them. And I don't feel the need to really recite the numbers other than to recognize, news has been breaking all day. The suspensions have been very one-sided as it pertains to the Tampa Bay Lightning. What I would put out there, and we'll go more into depth in this, I played hockey at a very low, call it junior C level for a couple of years, but I've been fortunate to work in the SPHL for about 8 years now. And the SPHL, for anyone who's not familiar with it, is pretty much like single A ball in minor league hockey. The American League is the affiliated AAA league. The ECHL is the affiliated double league. There is no affiliated A league, but the SPHL is pretty much that. There's also the FPHL, which is another, I would classify it as a lower level, but not disrespectfully. There are some great hockey players in there that could play at a bunch of different levels. I don't need to go down that rabbit hole. I think the reason that we are seeing a lot of suspensions targeted at the Tampa Bay Lightning right now is because what they did was very intentional. And I think the NHL is a little bit upset because what they also did, I think, like a lot of things the Lightning do, was very smart. I have categorized the Lightning over the last 5 to 10 years. In the years they were winning cups, in the last few years where those cups have been going elsewhere, they come to virtually each game with what I would classify as a business-like approach. They have some of the best talent in the world. I just saw Nikita Kucherov was ranked, I think, the 5th best player in hockey, which is comical. He is top 3 and he ain't 3. They play their game. They see the Florida Panthers a lot, who play a much heavier, more physical, extracurricular game. And the Panthers are very good at that. They're so good at that, they've won a couple Stanley Cups. The Lightning have always played their game. And in the regular season and in the postseason, that mindset is, we are going to worry about us. We are going to turn the other cheek, and we are going to find ways to win because we can win with the players we have. We're not going to get pulled in to the BS because that's not our game. The secret about doing that, playing the dirty, and it can get dirty, but the extracurricular, the more physical type of game, is that everyone can do it. What you lose, and kind of the unique thing about the Panthers, they've been able to do that with guys that are also very skilled. Every team in the NHL has 5 to 10 guys that are bigger, stronger, more physical, and willing to do things that no one else on the roster is down in the American League and the ECHL that they can bring up whenever they want. I think the Lightning probably had no intentions of calling up some of the guys they did before the first of the 2 preseason games against the Florida Panthers. Preseason hockey is a time to tune up. It is not a time to send a message unless a message is sent to you first. And a message was sent by the Florida Panthers to the Tampa Bay Lightning in the first of these 2 games. And it was targeted at Brandon Hagel. And my guess is that John Cooper and his staff said, you know what? We've been telling these guys for the last 5, 7, 9 years, turn the other cheek, because we want points. We want to win games. It doesn't matter if we win this second game versus Florida. It truly does not matter. Let's remind the fine folks in Sunshine that we very consciously make the decision to not play this kind of game. And if you want to do that stupid of stuff in the preseason, we will too. Because who cares if Sabourin is suspended for 4 games? And I mean, the tweets have been coming in. The Lightning have been fined $100,000, which by NHL standards, that is very significant. John Cooper fined $25,000. Scott Sabourin, NHL player safety, has suspended for 4 games. Anything else from the wise sages? 2 games for J.J. Moser. Gage Gonsalves fined $3,100. Roman Schmidt fined. A.J. Greer, he was fined $2,000 for, funny, less than Gonsalves was. Again, look at the names that are going to be missing. Those are not games that the Lightning are going to be relying on. And interestingly, too, and I'll run through it here, opening night roster announced for the Lightning. They did the Lightning call up a guy today that I had never heard of. And again, I think a lot of this is being done symbolically. I pulled up this guy's tail of the tape, and I want to find his name. He came over from the Utah Mammoth, which is applicable. The namesake. God dang it. Internet is just absolutely terrible right now. Stand by. This will just take 1 second. Here he is, Curtis Douglas, a player you have likely never heard of. Curtis Douglas has had an extensive career in the American Hockey League. Played for the Windsor Spitfires and Barrie Colts of the OHL. Curtis Douglas is 6'9", 250 pounds. That is as big of a man in the NHL, AHL, outside of Zdeno Chara that you will ever see. Type Curtis Douglas hockey fights into your internet browser, and you will have material to keep you entertained for probably a week. I do think it is worth reading the statistical line from last season. Curtis played for the Tucson Roadrunners in 63 games, 10 goals, 13 assists, 117 penalty minutes. It is very interesting to me that this has all occurred in the last 72 hours. We'll keep an eye on Curtis Douglas. My guess is that he We'll begin the year with the Syracuse Crunch. I want to run through real quick to end the show here the opening night roster for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Forwards. Oh, and two, Zemgus Girgensons, one of our guys who we've been excited about, injured in that Panthers game, starting the year on IR along with Nico Hoytinen and Nick Paul we knew. But again, I can kind of, get a kick out of how this has played out and how the Lightning have done it. But, I mean, there are real consequences. Guys getting hurt, that is not what you want and what can be a very beautiful and a very safe game. But when you do this stuff, that's what happens, and that's what forces the Lightning to handle it. And like I said, I do not mind one bit the way they handle it. It is a very real thing in the SPHL where weekend series, back-to-backs, even 3-game series are a thing. If you do something on Friday night, it's not going to be forgotten on Saturday night, and it's not going to be forgotten on Sunday. And I think the Panthers may have miscalculated that the Lightning have always been the team to turn the other cheek. On a game that does not matter, they decided not to do that. So, again, wrapping up here with the season opening rosters for your Tampa Bay Lightning up front. Oliver Bjorkstrand, Mitchell Chaffee, Anthony Cirelli. I stand corrected. Curtis Douglas. Jack Finley, Connor Geekie, Gage Gonsalves, Yanni Gourde, Jay Ginsel, Brandon Hagel, Pontus Holmberg, Nikita Kucherov, and Braden Point. Eric Chernak, Matt Crozier, Victor Hedman, Emil Lilleberg, Ryan McDonough, J.J. Moser, and Darren Radish on defense. Andrei Vasilevsky, Jonas Johansson, and Phoenix Copley as goaltenders. 70 Karen third goalie. Interesting. I'll see if Eduardo Encina has a story on that. So there it is, your opening night roster. And yeah, incorrect. Curtis Douglas getting the start on the big league club. That is pretty cool. And maybe a sign of the Lightning taking a new stance as it pertains to turning the other cheek. Hopefully, Mr. Douglas just has to kind of serve as a reminder on the bench. But we shall see. That's going to do it. I believe that I probably went over tonight. Apologies again. Oh, boy, I went way over. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Again, we will have shows every night this week leading up to the big game Friday night, USF and North Texas. We'll talk about that and much more tomorrow night. See you then.